Welcome back. Before the break, we looked at how self-portraits often show us an artist's personal concerns, but now we're going to look at two artists who've used themselves to represent a collective identity rather than just a personal one. In the case of Saira Khan, she uses her ethnic identity to comment on some of the prejudices aimed at the Pathan community, the most common of these being the label of akhrot.
Her investigation actually did start with the akhrot. Why am I being called an akhrot, you know? Am I a Pathan? I cannot speak Pashto. I have been born and brought up in Karachi. What sort of a Pathan am I? Do I take pride in being a Pathan, or is it something that I need to be ashamed of? So that's what she has been questioning.
What I had done previously with the walnut was that I had taken it and I was trying to relate myself to it, how to connect myself to it. I'm a Pathan, I'm a born Pathan. So I took it literally and I painted and I sculpted out a small fetus inside a walnut. So it became a womb. So it said, you know, I'm a born Pathan.
Transformation is a recurrent theme in Saira Khan's work. As she continued to explore the shape and form of the walnut, she discovered that it could be adjusted to take on new layers of meaning, perhaps commenting on how Pathan identity is too complex to put into a nutshell.
I took the original shell of a walnut and then I had done these little small clay sculptures with it. And I had placed the sculptures inside the walnut or outside the walnut, but in the end the walnut would not remain the walnut. It would become totally something else. Like in one again, then what I had done was I was not using the shell, I was using the edible part inside it because it's shaped like a brain. So what I had done was I had made this human head really small and I had cut it and I had placed that. I was just looking at the possibilities, how I could just change the same thing into different forms. Like when you're working with a self-portrait also, so you're every time you're using your self-portrait in a different way.
And like Saira shows us the bigger picture, another artist takes up more global issues of identity, using herself not once but twice in a series of diptychs to represent Indian and Pakistani identity.
So how many mangoes do you get in, sorts of mangoes do you get in Pakistan? I think we have about I think five main qualities, yeah. What about India? I think we have about 6. Actually, I think Pakistan also has 6 or 7 different types.
The whole work was coming from a personal experience, but it wasn't an issue of privacy at all. It was about the sort of the ideas that I was dealing with, which had nothing to do with my own person only. It was a much larger conversation, and I put myself into it. I was using myself to explore these issues of sort of national and religious identity and cultural identity. I did embody a larger grouping of people. The only personal reason behind the choice of putting myself in both spaces, as the Indian and the Pakistani, is because my parents are from India pre-partition. And I think a lot of Pakistanis, whether they've, their parents have migrated from there or not, do feel is that there's a continuity of culture and history from there, and there's been an artificial breaking off of that and an attempt to break it off, that we are Pakistan and Muslim and they are Hindu and Indian. So it is a much more hodgepodge, it is a confused past, it's a mixed past.
Assalamualaikum. आज के मुख्य समाचार इस प्रकार हैं. एक हिंदुस्तानी और एक पाकिस्तानी के दरमियान.
Using the self-portrait to explore post-partition psyche, in a work titled The News, Bani presents herself as the stereotypically Indian and Pakistani newscasters. Shown on 2 monitor screens, a Pakistani and an Indian news presenter relate separate versions of the same news event, but the event is actually trivial and bogus, parodying the propagandist media on both sides of the border and the government's attempt to construct a separate identity.
They're both talking about the same event, but just the commentary changes completely because of which side of the border they're on. I think it's really interesting take on how we are so similar and yet we're so different.
And lastly, Bani's final piece is an interesting contradiction to all the self-portraits that we've shown you so far, because in it she delivers a message not by representing herself, but by the absence of self.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is about the absent figure. It's about an absent figure, an absent leader, or a leader in transition, and I've played it in public spaces and photographed people watching an empty screen, watching an empty set. And it's there, and there were all kinds of conversations they were having with each other, which is the moment they saw that, they immediately got it, and that's where the whole idea of shared history comes in. That I don't have to explain to anyone here what that set is, what that TV set is. They'll look at it, and their first thing is they expect somebody to walk in, and then they keep on waiting for somebody to walk in. And it's that precise waiting which I'm interested in. It's waiting for the figure. I'm just interested in the aspect of the wait as some kind of a social crisis and culture in Pakistan, because there is a level of apathy in terms of action. And there is just a sense of hoping and waiting and praying that things would get better. And that's kind of what this becomes about.
Assalamu alaikum.
It's one of those instances where everyone understands the importance of a symbol, and you take away one aspect of that symbol, which is the figure that sits within it, and everyone immediately gets the pun or the possibility of the meaning of that piece, because it's something that we've all grown up looking at. So the interpretations around it are that much more varied and interesting and engaged. It became sort of a negative space for people to project their conversations and ideas onto. It opens up dialogue about that space in a very broad way, because by itself it's such a strong, it's a strongly recognizable set.
हम सब ने मिलके मुशर्रफ को शिकस्त दी. अब इसके बाद एक इम्तिहान आ पड़ा हम पे. इम्तिहान ये है कि अब आगे कैसे चलना है.
So the vacant self-portrait is almost like a challenge to Pakistanis everywhere to ask ourselves if we have a particular personality that we want representing us to the world. That's all from us at The Looking Glass this week. I'm Saira Akhtar. Be sure to tune in to us again next week.